all right. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us here in the Sky Lounge for All Access Pass. I'm your cruise host, Jason, and this is the second All Access Pass of the cruise, and I am joined on stage by an absolute musical legend, a god of rock, if you will. Do me a favor, please help me in welcoming the fabulous Dave Mason. First and most importantly, thank you not only for doing this chat with me, but thank you for being on the cruise. It's high time we got you out here, and we really do truly appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's, yeah, come on, we've been waiting for this, haven't we? I feel like I know your influence in music is so broad-ranging that we've had versions or pieces or covers of your songs on this ship, but we haven't had you yourself. When you got the call to come out and do the Rock and Romance cruise, what was your thought?
Well, it's, I'm always on tour, for one thing. I mean, we're out. This is actually in the middle of the tour that we're on right now, which is basically the Traffic Jam tour.
Yeah.
So I'm rekindling some of the traffic stuff, which some of it I've rearranged, redone. We can talk about it a little bit. There's a version actually of Dear Mr. Fantasy rearranged with me and Joe Bonamassa that's out right now, and it's on the new blues album, which we actually brought to the ship.
In the shops.
It's available. Yeah, very cool album. And Joe's on the album. He's on about 3 different things. A couple of them I do in the show. But obviously Joe's not here. So
He wanted to be, but we had to.
He wanted to be.
Dave
but
Mason,
he's on his own cruise.
He's got his own, yeah. Forget that guy. How many dates is your tour? How many dates is the Traffic Jam tour?
This part's out till about the 14th of April.
April. Okay, and then I'm assuming a small break and you go back out, or is that the end of
about a month, and then we go back out again. I think we're doing some dates with the Beach Boys. Then we pretty much run until October, end of October.
And in your perfect world, how many dates would you do a year? Like, what's the sweet spot for you?
Good question. They're obviously less than I would have done 40 years ago.
Sure, fair enough. Earned.
But we do about 70, 80 shows a year.
And here's something I think that, and this is not the everyday fan. The blessing of the Rock and Romance cruise is most of the folks in this room understand the industry pretty well. But for the average fan, they don't understand that 80 dates, they don't necessarily think of the travel days, the hotel days, the bus days, all the days that build up.
Yeah,
so it's 80 performances, but it's a ton of days.
I'm not getting paid for the performance.
Yeah, the travel, right?
I'm getting paid for the other 22 hours. That's what and leaving the house.
Yeah, and that's fair.
That's what I'm getting paid for.
People, it's often, you hear, when you hear guys still doing 200 dates and things like that, that seems daunting. Is there a world where you would want to do anything that extensive anymore, or do you prefer where you're at?
I would do 100 or so dates a year, 150.
Yeah. What was your peak?
I just do it. It's just what I do.
You clearly still enjoy it. You clearly
I love playing.
In getting on stage and playing for you, is it a reconnection? Is it for you? Does that question make sense? Like, when you get up to play, in your head, are you like, okay, here we go? Or is this performance, every time, is that for you? Or you're performing for Dave Mason?
For me.
Yeah.
That's what the band, that's pretty much what we do.
Yeah.
We're performing for us.
Sure.
Rather than, things are, there's some set songs that pretty much stay the same, like We Just Disagree, but I have a lot of stuff that leaves a lot of room for, a little solo-wise, just pretty much solos are never the same.
Sure.
So there's always something a little different going on. It keeps it interesting and fun for us in the band.
Which in turn makes it fun for people watching.
Which makes if it's not fun for us, it's not going to be fun for you guys. Otherwise, you're just watching somebody go through the motions.
Yeah.
May as well go home and put a record on.
Yeah. Lonnie Jordan from War was up here yesterday, and he said the quote, and he said this to me years ago, but he repeated it on stage. Too much thinking on stage is a disease.
Oh, Well, if you're thinking about it, you're not doing it.
Yeah. And he
But that
was,
pretty much goes for anything.
and fair enough. And fair enough. If you don't mind, let's go back a little bit before we come to today. Let's go back to the good old days. You're co-founder and founder of Traffic. At that point in your life, did you think when you guys got together, did you think you had something that was going to be still resonating in 2024? Did you know you were onto something fresh and new and exciting?
Then, no, I mean, at that age, you don't think about that.
You're just kids, right?
Yeah, I was 19, 20 years old. No marriage, no kids, no mortgage. You know, what the hell did I care?
No expectations.
You know, but I knew it was going to be, it was going to be successful because Steve Winwood was in part of the Traffic.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, he'd already had, hits with Spencer Davis.
Yeah.
Which 3 of the records I'm on, Somebody Help Me, and Give Me Some Lovin'.
Yeah.
And I'm a Man, which we actually do in the show. So yeah, Santana was not the group that did I'm a Man, by the way. That was a Spencer Davis hit.
It's, was there a moment when you guys first knew that it was something special? Like, I like to ask that because some artists say, oh man, our first sold out show, we recognize it. Some guys say, man, it was the first time we jammed together. We knew there was something special. Was there a moment that you look back on where you go, wow, okay, we know there's something?
Well, for me, like I say, I mean, I knew there was something because we had Winwood in the band. So we were already starting out with somebody that was already very well known.
Successful, yeah.
So it was sort of baked in.
Fair enough.
How successful it was going to be after that, I don't know. That was like, okay, whatever.
But in 2004, when you're inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. In 2004, when you're inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, that's another level, right, of success. There's a lot of successful groups and a lot of folks out there that have been commercially successful for years and years and years that aren't in.
There should be.
It should be. It should be, absolutely.
A lot of stuff in there that shouldn't be.
And should be. Name names. No, just kidding. Don't. But at that point, right, I mean, that's, do you view that as the pinnacle? Or was that just another step?
Pinnacle in terms of what?
In terms of the success of you guys viewing Traffic.
I don't know. It's just, I'm not much of an awards guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I know what we did and I know what I do. It's just, thanks for recognizing it and
Sure.
giving us a heads up. But, I'm not really, like I say, I'm not an awards sort of, I'm like, oh, wow, we're getting some.
But I appreciate that, though, because some people sit on that. And I mean, it is a great accolade. It is a huge accolade. And
sure.
For some of our artists, that creates a different persona, and it creates, all the door jams got to get a little bigger for certain people to get through.
No,
but not you.
No.
You stayed humble through that.
Pants go on one leg at a time, okay.
I'm going to name, so I wrote this down. Forgive me for reading from my card. I don't like to do that. But there are very few people in the world that are connected, right? And so when I read the names, McCartney, Harrison, the Stones, Hendrix, Clapton, Michael Jackson, Crosby, Nash, Winwood, Fleetwood Mac, Delaney and Bonnie, Leon Russell, Cass Elliot, and on and on and on. There is one tie that binds every one of those artists together, and it is this man right here. That's not normal, sir. That's not normal. That's exceptional. When you look back or you hear those names, and I know they're friends, so you don't necessarily revere them the way some of us do, but what does it mean to you to know that you have been, you're woven into the fabric of rock and roll history? How does that affect you in any way? Do you still think about that? Does that give you a wow moment?
I really only think about it if we're doing something like this.
Sure.
I mean,
if I bring it up, yeah.
Yeah, in interviews or stuff, I mean, I don't really think about it unless,
Unless I'm asking you to think about it.
Unless you're asking me to think about it. But yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate in that I've been in some significant records with some very significant artists.
Yeah.
And very diverse.
When you look back, is there an artist or group or a tour that for you means the most?
Well, really, I'm a guitar player.
Yeah.
That's, singing was something it was all about guitars for me when I was 14, 15. And then you had to learn to sing. Otherwise, you didn't get any local bookings, so you had to learn to sing the current records of the day and stuff. But as a guitar player, obviously Hendrix. There's a lot of great guitar. There are some incredibly good guitar players out there.
Bonamassa is a monster.
One.
Monster.
There's kids out there that are 13 and 14
Yeah.
who play circles around me.
Yeah.
But there are no more Jimi Hendrix.
No.
He was just so innovative.
Yeah. You were around. So London. When did you come to the United States? Forgive me. In the early 70s.
69.
69. Okay, late 60s. You were in that London scene, that music scene in the 60s, in the early 70s there.
Yes.
That I don't want to say it was a wild scene, but it was kind of a wild scene. There was so many artists that we look back on now with reverence and that are just monsters. They're gods of rock and pop and all of that. And you were a huge part of that. At the time, running in those circles, though, that had to be incredibly educational in some ways and probably detrimental in some others. But
it was, excuse me. It was, there was a lot of stuff, fashion, art, music. It was all in flux.
Yeah.
And I'm born in 46, so, I'm a step away from the last World War.
Yeah.
And that's what we kind of grew up in, so being there. And the other thing is musically, in England, in America you had, let's see, you got San Francisco, LA, Nashville, Muscle Shoals, Philadelphia, Detroit, New York. Were all music centers. In England, there was just one, and that was London. So everybody gravitated there.
Did you look up to any American artists at the time, or were you pretty ensconced in your...
You have to understand. You see, the British invasion is an American story.
It is, yeah. Very much so.
Well, yeah, you have to understand that all we did was, all contemporary music is American.
Yeah.
Other than maybe, Appalachian music, which has its roots in Europe. But all contemporary music is American. And we just, there'd be no Eric Clapton, there'd be no Rolling Stones, there'd be no me if it wasn't for all the great blues artists and jazz artists.
Yeah.
So we just learned from all that, copied it and put a twist on it and sold it back to you.
Well said.
And in the process probably turned you on to music that you didn't know about. Because we didn't have segregated radio growing up.
Which is a huge difference.
So we heard it all.
Yeah. And there was a great, you mentioned blues and jazz, so you guys had you across the pond were influenced in a lot of, there's all the stories of Muddy Waters and the Rolling Stones and on and on. You guys had a different set of influence, I think.
Yeah, you take the Beatles' first album.
Yeah.
There's a lot of American songs. They're not all their songs on that album.
It is, to your point, I think you said it best. The British invasion is an American invention to a certain extent.
It's an American story.
Yeah, it's an American story.
Yeah.
It's a great way of putting it. I love that. As you know, as we mentioned backstage, as we're chatting, I will intersperse our chat with questions from the audience.
Go ahead.
Katie, who comes to us from Massachusetts, what did your family think about you becoming a musician, writer, singer?
Well, first of all, you have to understand, my father was born in 1894. No, my grandfather, my father. My father was in the First World War. And my half-brothers were driving tanks in North Africa in the Second World War. So that's was my upbringing
Yeah.
with people like that. My mother was she took, my parents had a candy store for 48 years. And,
Did you say a candy store? That's fantastic.
and
How cool is that? What was it called?
it was called E. Mason's
E. Masons.
in Angel Place in Worcester.
That's really cool. I don't think I've ever had that happen on
Worcester,
stage.
England.
Continue, please continue.
And my mother stole some money, pilfered some money out of the till
As you do.
so that I could buy my first guitar.
How old were you at the time?
About 16, 15 or 16.
Nice. Do you remember that guitar?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you still have it?
No.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of things I don't have.
Fair enough, fair enough. Sometimes you ask the question like, oh yeah, it's in a case in my office in the back somewhere.
I wish
Yeah.
it was. I wish I did, but I don't.
Scott comes to us from Florida. Oh, this is interesting. Scott says, Adam Sandler worked with you about 35 years ago, and apparently Scott knows Mr. Sandler. He wants to say hi and is as impressed as hell that you're still kicking ass at this. That's from Adam Sandler via Scott.
Okay.
Alan joins us from Atlantic City. Oh, interesting. Would you ever consider touring again with Steve Winwood?
The question is really the other way around.
Would Steve Winwood ever consider touring with Dave Mason?
You'd have to ask him.
I'll ask him next time. Rob from Ohio. What was your most interesting or bizarre moment, either on stage or off, in your musical career that you are willing to share with us? Next question.
Oh God, I don't know. That's just- There's too many.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, I tell you what, Brenda from Kentucky follows it up with actually it's similar but a little bit different. Do you have a favorite venue to play? Did you or do you now? Globally.
Well, I haven't played it in years, but Red Rocks.
Red Rocks, yeah. Red Rocks is so revered. It's such a cool venue. It is such a unique and cool venue. Whenever the concert footage comes out from folks that play there, it's just beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
What's it like from stage looking out at Red Rocks?
Well, it's just the location. The whole place is
It's beautiful.
It's just a natural amphitheater.
Yeah.
In the right in the foot of the mountains there in Denver. The other place would be the Gorge.
The Gorge. I'm a Portland, Oregon boy, so
Okay,
I know the
so
Gorge
you
well.
know it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know the Gorge. I know the Gorge well. The Gorge, Portland, Oregon. Obviously, if you're familiar with Portland, the Gorge is about 2 hours east of Portland, Oregon, and it's kind of a haven. A lot of huge names love the Gorge and will continue to come back and play it. It's kind of out of the way. It's near the Dalles. It's not near a major city necessarily, but it's another unique destination that people love.
Yeah, yeah.
What was it about the Gorge for you?
Well, it's the location.
Yeah, again.
It's that spot.
I feel like you enjoy looking out at nature.
Well, I'm basically a country boy. So.
Oh, there you go. In a perfect world, do you enjoy mega theaters where you're playing to thousands and thousands and tens of thousands, or do you prefer smaller, intimate theaters?
Wherever there's an audience.
Wherever the check clears.
I've played them all. I've played from 300 to 300,000. So
it's got to be wild to walk out in front of 300,000 people. That's the size. That's bigger than most cities. I mean, that's a big.
Well, there's so many. It doesn't really.
Yeah.
How do I put it? There's so many people that it just doesn't. It doesn't. It's not the same as playing a very intimate venue where it's more up close.
It is. Some people say it goes both ways. Some people say it's easier to play the big venues.
It's easier
because it's not quite as intimate with eye contact with the 15 people or 300 people or 30 people. There is a grander scale to it. In the same way that it's easier sometimes to talk to a group than it is one-on-one in our lives. Mark comes to us from Colorado Springs, Colorado. There you go, Mark. Do you remember playing at Colorado College in the late 80s in Colorado Springs? It was a great time. Yes, Jason, I do remember that, and it was the best. Thanks, Mark. There you go, Mark.
It's too many miles ago.
Yeah, fair enough.
I played every college there was to play in America 2 or 3 times. Way back, when it was back in the early 70s. I played every college there is. Speaking of venues, though, there was one other great venue that I played the last but one show there, which I wish was still working, was in Miami, the Marine Stadium.
Ooh.
They used to I did the last but one show there, a great venue. It was held about 8,000 people.
8,000.
Yeah, and it was
That's a clean
really
number.
for boat racing, but they did these shows. The stage would be on a barge in front of and it was
On a barge?
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Yeah, that was a great venue. Anyway.
Like you said, you're a country boy. You like to be performing out in the...
Yeah.
You just have a pole off the back, do a little fishing. You are also renowned for your philanthropy. I was reading a bit about it. Between Little Kids Rock, Yoga Blue, Rock Our Vets, you've been involved in a lot of philanthropy. Touch a little bit on it if you don't mind.
Well, the thing with Little Kids for Rock, they asked me if I would be part of the board a long time ago. I can't say that I've been actively involved because I'm not. They haven't really asked me in all the years that they asked me to be on it. My whole thing of doing it, my schooling was we were taught a bit of everything.
Sure.
And music was part of the education. And the fact that it's not part of the curriculum in America is really stupid.
It is. It is. It is.
So we grew up at school with all that. So I'm very much for it. I had a charity called Rock Our Vets.
Yeah.
Which unfortunately I don't have it anymore at the moment, though I'm very supportive of all uniformed services.
Yes, sir. Well, you come from a family of it.
And I'm currently actually involved with a thing called, it's actually for radio. SOF is with a friend of mine in New York, which is teaching autistic kids and autistic people becoming DJs.
DJs?
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and it's that's sort of that's brand new. So I'm.
How does Dave Mason get into teaching autistic children and adults about DJing? That's kind of
well. I'm there. I was asked by the person who put it together to be one of the sponsors. I mean, there's just a lot of research been done, i.e. with music and autism. I mean, it has.
Oh yeah.
It's very helpful.
Yeah, it's therapeutic.
Very, very therapeutic. So yeah, I'm.
That's cool. I feel like you. I mean, judging by your record of giving back, that must mean something to you. That must resonate with you to be involved in something like that.
Well, it does. I mean, the music. I guess one of the great things for me, I did a Toys for Tots show in Atlanta. Andrew Young was mayor, gave me the key to the city. But it was back in the 70s, but I'm standing by the side of the stage, and the Marines, of course, are involved.
Yes. And
I'm standing there waiting to go on, and when a Marine comes up to me, he says, me and Buddy were stuck in a foxhole. All we had was a Hendrix tape and your album. I said, for 3 days we were stuck there. We'd have gone nuts if we hadn't have had your music.
How amazing.
How
amazing. That has to feel good.
Well, the thing about the music is you touch people.
Yeah.
You touch people on a very deep level, but
yeah.
who I have no clue who they are.
Sure. It's a very intimate relationship to not know them.
Yeah, but it's a one-way. It's
a one-way.
Very
yeah.
one-way.
Yeah. It's a man like yourself, when you do meet fans, I mean, that's I never really thought of it that way, and I love the way you put that. When you do meet fans, you've influenced people's lives in so many ways, and with all due respect, they haven't had that same influence back on you. So there's an interesting one way to that, but their fandom and their adoration back, I'm assuming, gives you something back in the moment.
No, it's fantastic. I mean,
a lot of people lost their
know.
virginity to you. That's just how it works.
absolutely. Oh yeah. I've done my bit for the population.
That's why we're at 8 billion and counting. That's a lot of Dave Mason records out there is what's going on. We're talking a lot about your guitar playing and your singing, but you are a fantastic writer. You've been a wonderful writer your entire career. I've
written a couple of things.
A couple things. Do you have a process like?
No. No, I don't.
How does it come about?
That's a great question. I wish I knew.
Yeah, fair enough.
I really do. I wish I knew. If I did, I'd be. If I knew what the process was, I'd have written a lot more "Feeling All Right." Okay.
Yeah, but you wrote "Feeling All Right" when you were what, 19 still? I mean, you were a kid, right? When you wrote
19,
that.
20 when I wrote it.
And that's one of the most covered. I mean, that's a huge rock anthem still. I mean, what, you got 17 major artists, 20 major artists?
Over 50 major artists.
50 major artists.
Every bar band still plays it.
Yeah, I think it's required.
And they probably sang in the karaoke bar.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I did. I hope you weren't there. I was reading something about when someone asked you about being a writer, and you said, "I'm not prolific, I'm specific," I think was the quote. You don't write a ton, but when you do write, you're kind of lasered in on what you're writing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I throw a lot of stuff away.
Now that's a travesty.
I mean, I leave it unfinished because it just doesn't
How much?
seem like a good idea, but nah.
The magic question: how much Dave Mason music or writing is hidden out there that the world has never seen or heard?
Not a lot, because
Okay.
I don't really write a lot.
Okay.
There's,
But you just said you throw some away or you leave it
I
unfinished.
do. I mean, I have stuff that. I mean, the problem which everybody sort of doesn't really want to talk about is that we just, our ability to sell albums and make records anymore has gone out the window.
Completely changed.
Because everybody's politely calling what they call streaming.
AKA stealing. Yeah.
A huge part of what we do is gone. I mean, this is our livelihood. The music just doesn't grow on a tree somewhere down at the bottom of the garden. It is our livelihood. But so, I mean, I have stuff, and there's on the new CD, A Shade of Blues. There's some new songs on there.
Okay.
But I essentially bring stuff. I just bring it to the shows.
Got it.
Is where I really make it, available.
Well,
And I do a lot of. Interestingly enough, we do a lot of vinyl.
Yeah. It's come back. Vinyl's
Yeah.
come back in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
Vinyl's
we do a
become
lot
popular
of
again.
vinyl out there.
Can't wait for 8-tracks to come back. That's what I'm.
No, we don't.
Something I
We
don't
don't
think.
need-
Yeah, no, I'm joking. Something I don't think people recognize though is, and if you're not paying attention to it or you're not involved directly in the music business, streams don't necessarily correlate to cash in your pocket. It's
I mean, Spotify.
all of them.
We're getting ripped off in the music business is de rigueur for years. Okay, one way or other. But things like Spotify, it's worse than it ever was.
Yeah, I mean, it takes millions of views or millions of streams to get dollars.
Yeah, it's insane.
It
Well,
is.
they're just not paying the right royalties.
Yeah. I mean, that's yeah.
That's what's happening. That's why you don't get a lot of. I mean, we're still making music, and we're still making new music, and we still have good, really cool stuff. But putting it out there anymore, and also the other big thing is there's no DJ, there's no radio anymore.
Yeah.
There's no great DJs.
Sure.
There's just some guy with a cart putting it into a thing and playing you the same songs you already got at home. I mean, classic rock radio and play nothing.
Yep.
They play the same stuff over and over again, instead of saying, "Hey, here's a classic Dave Mason," but hey, check out the new one. So there's no way to, all that's part and parcel of it.
Does that hamper your desire to create new music?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In all honesty, yes.
It has to.
Yeah.
Because you're getting so little reward financially and/or that's a lot of work. There's a lot of work that goes into that. It's not.
It costs money to make an album.
At this point, you're upside down on the album before it even.
Right. So yeah, absolutely. There is a practical side to it.
And that makes sense. I mean, it's travesty. It really is for, you've got people in this room that are huge fans. You've got people on the ship that are huge fans. You've got people all over the world that are huge fans. But it's the disconnect is in the middle with the companies that are controlling, whether you, like you said, the DJs and or the Spotifys or the music streaming services. In some ways, they're holding us back.
Yeah, well, MP3 is a curse.
MP3, yeah, because you can
As
see
soon as they,
you trade it.
and not just for musicians, but for authors, for writers.
Oh, yeah.
Anything you can turn into zeros and ones.
If you can download it.
Yeah, I mean, if you could turn a car into zeros
Sure.
and ones and download it, we'd probably get some action.
Yeah. Then all of a sudden, people pay attention.
The companies would jump up and start doing something. But it is what it is. Pandora is out of the box.
Yeah. No pun intended. Did you see how he did that? Pandora streaming service, Pandora. No. I know we got to get you out of here in a second. Before we do, you have a lot of stories from a lot of years in this business. And whether it's you who convinced yourself or your lovely wife or your team around you, somebody finally nudged you into writing a book.
They did.
Let's talk a little bit about the book
They did.
coming out. Tell us a little bit about the book. It's coming out this summer, correct?
It's supposed to be. We were trying to get it out for my birthday, May 10th, but it probably will be a little bit later. But yeah, fans kept asking about a book for years, and then and my wife badgered me.
Thank you to your wife. Thank
Yeah.
you to Winifred. Where she is.
Otherwise, I would, left to my own devices, I would never have written anything. I mean, I just never think about it. I was a kid from Worcester who just picked up a guitar and got lucky. I just think, well, what is okay? So
I'm gonna
But in
restructure that.
writing it, but in doing it, I mean, the fact of the matter is, I finished up being in some very significant records.
Oh, huge.
And with some very significant artists.
Shall I reread the names? I mean, it's the who's who that's ever touched music. I mean,
You can do that if you want, but and so I wrote it, and finally, because I got asked so many times about, I mean, if I had $1 about whether Traffic's going to ever get back together. I mean, obviously Jim Capote has passed away,
yeah.
and Chris Wood, but so I finally put in there why that went the way it did.
Okay. And it is Only You and I Know, correct?
Only You Know and I Know.
Only You Know and I Know. Forgive me. Same with the song.
My song.
Yeah. Only You Know and I Know. And where can folks get a hold of that? if they
Well,
want?
you'll have to ask my wife. She's back there. She looks after all that stuff.
Winifred, I assume that's on. That'll be on Amazon, I'm guessing, and all the good things. Not to mention the website.
Or you can pre-order it, I think.
You pre-order on the website.
Yeah.
Perfect. And,
DaveMasonMusic.com, by the way.
DaveMasonMusic.com. You said something a moment ago, and I want to steal that sentence and turn it around. You said, I picked up a guitar and got lucky. And I don't mean this to sound pandering, but honestly, you picked up a guitar and we got lucky.
But then it's, which is good because I love win-win situations.
Win-win situation, exactly. There are millions, let's be honest. There are, like you mentioned a moment ago, there are 13s and 14-year-olds out there that can shred now on the guitar.
Yeah.
There are so many people that can sing and play, but there is a huge difference between the people that can pick up an instrument and play and the people that actually make it.
Well,
they
that's
have
what
the-
I mean. I just put my. I mean, I did. I guess a lot of it is you have to be just laser beamed. Like anything, you have to laser beam focus. And you go out there there's no safety net with what we do.
Yeah.
It's a wish and a prayer, man.
It's a lonely
for all
world.
musicians.
It's a lonely world.
Basically, underneath. Basically, I'm just a working musician.
Sure.
Is what I am. But like I said, I got some fortunate situations that happened, and part of it I got lucky, but I sort of put myself in those positions. I mean, I've slept on floors and had nothing and just basement floors. And I mean, when I came here, I just had a little bag and an acoustic guitar, Nobody knew who the hell I was when I came to America. Traffic was just getting known.
Yeah.
So
How does I'm very honored and blessed to do a lot of interviews. I get to sit with a lot of stars, and it's not lost on me what I get to do, being able to sit here with you. I'm always shocked when someone who's done and what you've done, someone who has a career like yours, maintains a humble nature, maintains a level head. You mentioned a moment ago you put your pants on one leg at a time. And I know this is a very self-serving question, but if you have an answer, what's allowed you and what's encouraged you, what's helped you stay centered and not get lost in the ether of what stardom is?
Well, let's put it this way. I never wanted to be a rock star. I just wanted to make music, meet girls, and make some money.
As you do. I mean, that's it, right? 1, 2, 3.
That was basically it. and I never wanted to be a front guy.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy in a band.
You got into it for pure reasons, and so you managed to hold on to them, basically, is what you're saying.
And also my upbringing.
I was going to say, your family has to play. If you come from a family of soldiers and those that serve, there's probably some upbringing back there that
Yeah, I
helped
mean,
keep
I've
you
gone
in
off
line.
the track, believe me, but, it's that brought me, those things that bring me back. And I write about it all in the book. I mean,
It's in the
I've
book.
I've done my amount of research, trust me.
Into your own past. Even the stuff you don't remember, somebody somewhere remembers. They
Exactly.
always do.
Yeah.
My last question before we'll let you get out of here. What can people expect at your show on this cruise? What should people come into the audience thinking?
Well, where there's no smoke and there's no dancing girls and there's no flashing lights, but we're just a great band. Great songs.
It's that simple, isn't it?
It's a mix of, like I said, right now I'm out doing this Traffic tour.
Yeah.
So Dave Mason's Traffic Jam. So there's Traffic songs in there. There's Dave Mason stuff in there. There's some songs in there that are not mine, but I've been on or associated with. And actually, we just one of the great things, and we played together 30 years ago. As of end of last year, Mark Stein is now playing keyboards with me from Vanilla
great.
Fudge.
Yeah. That's phenomenal.
So we get to do You Keep Me Hanging On, which is way cool.
That's phenomenal. Well, I tell you what, I am truly, I know I speak for everyone in the live audience, and I'm sure I speak for everyone on TV. I'm so grateful to you for being on this cruise and for taking the time to come and chat.
Thank you, everybody.
Do me a favor, everybody. Put your hands together for the one and only Dave Mason. Have a great afternoon. We'll see you out and about.
Thank you all.